Hello fellow cyborgs, and welcome to another Hindsight is 2020 video where I talk to you about some books that I've reread. So let's talk about the 3 Wintery favorites that I read in January. None of them are favorites really anymore. I was really worried about rereading The Book Thief, just wondering how this original 5-star book would hold up after 8 years of life and reading other really impactful books. And to be honest, when I first started reading this, the staccato-like sentences and writing style really threw me off. But I got used to it and really enjoyed the short chapters and how that made me want to keep reading, and also found that the characterization and world building in here for the World War II historical setting was really well developed. However, I didn't really enjoy the ending as much. I didn't find it as impactful as the first time I read it. And I don't think it was mostly the fact that I knew what was coming. I just think that I have a very different kind of perspective on the ending. Being as vague as possible, I'm not so sure that the ending needed to be as devastatingly tragic as it is. It felt like manipulating the reader, especially when we didn't get a lot of resolution afterward. It just seemed like, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? Let's do the thing because I want my readers to cry. I was also pretty critical while I was reading of Liesel's relationship with Rudy, specifically his wanting to kiss her and the omniscient narrator of death saying, "Oh, Liesel, you should have let him kiss you." It just felt like girl should have given up the kiss because she should have given up the kiss. Rudy was a good guy, and it's like, if she doesn't want to kiss him, she shouldn't have to kiss him, and I don't like how death is judging her for making her decisions. So those are my 2 complaints, but I just want you to know that otherwise, this was still a really enjoyable reading experience. It's just that those 2 specific things I'm looking at more critically now. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on the second reading, and that doesn't worry me. 4 stars still delight me to no end, so still eager to keep this on my shelves. I also reread Backwater by Joan Bauer and pleasantly forgot most of the plot of this, so while I was surprised by a lot of what happened in here, it wasn't quite as magical as the first time I read it. And I think part of that is I went into this completely and utterly blind. No recommendation. I just found it at a library cart book sale and liked the cover, liked the sound of it, and gave it a try. The fact that it was so delightful and also a surprise, I think, is what made me give it 5 stars the first time. The second go around, I would happily give this 4 out of 5 stars. I still think it is really quality middle grade or young adult fiction. I still think that the messages in here are really interesting, and what I remembered about the cultivate peace thing was not nearly as big of a deal as I remember it, except for the fact that it's not explained to the reader. But this is definitely a book about self-discovery and looking back at your history and not forgetting people in your family and accepting family members for who they are. And I think all of those things are really important things to be in books, especially books for young people. There is a bit of a romance in here, but it's super downplayed. It's like subplot E. So even though I kind of wish that it wasn't in there, I like that even though it was in there, it wasn't like the be-all end-all of this experience. I mean, love should make room for you to have other really important relationships in your life, right? So still super enjoyable. I still recommend it, but I didn't love it as heartily upon rereading. So originally 5 stars, but now 4. And then we have The Rabbitback Literature Society by Pasi Ilmari-Jaaskelainen, translated by Lola M. Rogers, and I DNF'd this. I got about 40% of the way through, like 130 pages, and I was finding excuses to watch YouTube videos instead of read because I just wasn't enjoying this. I think what happened, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys, is that this was a 2015 read, which was my first full year on BookTube, and I was caught up with the hype. I wanted to grow my channel, and I wanted to be like the person who discovered a book first. Also, I found this book randomly when I was in Scotland and saw the beautiful cover and didn't know anything about it, hadn't heard about it. I put a lot of wishful thinking into my initial reading experience of this book, and I think I have grown and in a more discerning reader. So when I first read this, I thought the writing style was quirky and beautiful and whimsical. I loved the snowy setting, and the characters came to life for me, and it was about a literature society, so there were also references to some of the books that they wrote. But rereading it now, I found the writing style pretentious, whimsical for the sake of being whimsical, and also just repeating phrases like the main character is known for her lovely curving lips, the fact that she has defective ovaries, and those are her two things. And whenever we're describing this character, we need to check those boxes off. The characters all for me were just unlikable, but worse off also uninteresting. There's also this like underlying like sense of dread through here. There's a bit of a mystery, but the thing is that you don't realize that it's set up as a mystery until you're reading, and then the mystery keeps changing and snowballing. I don't remember where this eventually goes, what conclusion it comes to, and I didn't care enough to find out and keep reading. So I just decided that I was going to DNF this bad boy, and my favorite book of 2015 is now a 2-star DNF in 2020, and that's just how life works. And this is why I wanted to do the Hindsight is 2020 project, because I have been side-eyeing this on my shelves for years, just thinking like, I know I gave you a hearty 5-star back then, but I don't have like warm, fuzzy, positive aura about you. And I don't feel like I could in good conscience recommend this to somebody, even though my Goodreads says I love it. I'm really glad that I reread this. And I don't think I went into it hating it, because the first like 60 pages I was thinking I'll DNF. Then I kept reading and it's like, oh, it's developing into something a little more interesting. I'll keep reading. And it is pretty quick and easy to read. But it was just kind of annoying after a while, so I might have ended up giving it 3 stars if I read all the way through, but I didn't want to spend my time doing that, so there you go. So those were my 3 Wintery favorites. None of them I would consider favorites anymore, but 2 of them I still consider to be really solid books and I highly recommend, but maybe skip the 3rd one a little bit. So please let me know in the comments down below if you have any thoughts on any of these books, if you have reread or even just read any of these books, and thank you for watching. Until next time, continue to be lovely.